Hey there, Pastor Anthony here. I wanted to take some time to do an introduction to my upcoming sermon series on the book of Ecclesiastes, to give you a little bit of an introduction, not as big as I did for Lamentations, just one episode for introduction. And then what I intend to do as I preach through the book of Ecclesiastes, I will be providing some short videos, what I'm going to call, I think, sermon snacks, which is really, when you make a sermon, you write it up. One of the goals is when you preach a sermon is to it's kind of like making a cake. You want to present to the people in the sermon the cake, all with its icing and all done, right? The end thing. You don't want to present people the eggs, the flour, and the butter, all that sugar, all that kind of stuff you use to make the cake. You want to give them a refined, finished product. And what I want to do in these sermon snacks is kind of take you back into the kitchen and show you the eggs, the flour, the sugar, and the butter, those type of things, to show you the ingredients, some other additional details, which will help me present the cake, I think, because I can have this other outlet to share some of the background details about the text, some of the things I left out of the sermon, maybe some of the interpretive issues. So expect to see that as I preach through the book, as almost like providing a Sunday school lesson. I'll try to keep the videos short. I realize that helps for an engagement as you're watching this. So this time, on this episode, Intro to Ecclesiastes. What is this book all about? Well, the first thing I want you to see is that the book is difficult. It's difficult. This is what Sidney Greidanus, and I'll be using this book. It's called Preaching Christ from Ecclesiastes. This will be my main source, actually, for my sermon series. Great, fantastic, helpful book in preaching. I'll be using some other resources. I'll mention them, but I'll be reading from Sidney Greidanus' book here. He was a professor at Calvin Theological Seminary. So he starts out his book and he writes this: Ecclesiastes may be the most difficult book to interpret and preach. A major reason for this difficulty is that Old Testament scholars are not agreed on key issues. And then he lists some of these. The number of authors involved in writing this book, the identity of the main author, when, where, and why the book was written, the quality of the Hebrew style, which sections are poetry and which are prose, the book's structure or lack thereof, and whether its message is pessimistic or positive. So you see all the issues that are there, interpretive issues. Then he adds this quote from Dwayne Garrett. Perhaps an even greater hindrance to preaching wisdom is the suspicion many have that it contains no gospel. And there is that. Where is Christ in this book? Is there the gospel in this book? And then Greidanus ends with this comment: small wonder that many preachers consider it the better part of wisdom to omit Ecclesiastes from their preaching schedule. Well, you can tell I'm not a very wise person, because here I go. Did Lamentations? Hop right into Ecclesiastes. And it really is a difficult book. In fact, Greidanus notes in the book here that the Revised Common Lectionary of the church has only a couple of readings from Ecclesiastes, only for 2 worship services in the liturgical year. So difficult, neglected. Hey, stuff for Savaggio to do. Now, I have difficult, but extremely valuable. This is a valuable thing for us to engage in. Why? Well, Greidanus points out 2 reasons, and he quotes from 2 different scholars on this, Ian Provon and Leland Ryken. The first reason this is valuable is this world matters. This world matters. And this book is about real life lived under the sun. That's that phrase you'll see, I think it's 29 times in the book, that speaks about life on this plane, on this existence. And that's important because guess what? That's where we live our lives, right? We would love to be all kind of playing harps in the heavenlies, but we all have to do work, right? We all have to do labor. We all have to live and occupy this world, and it's our experience. And this book tells us that this world matters, that it matters. It does not denigrate this world, this material world, the earthly plane, if you will. It tells us it matters. That's why it's important. Ian Provon writes this: in focusing our attention on this life rather than the next, indeed this book contributes to the correction of an all too frequent imbalance throughout the ages in Christian thinking, which has sometimes presented Christianity as if it were more of a matter of waiting for something than a matter of living. That's exactly right. This reminds us that Christianity embraces the goodness of the world, of all that we do in this world, that it's beautiful, it's worthy of our time and effort, it matters. Second reason it is valuable is because it tells us that this world won't satisfy us. That it won't satisfy us. It is good, it is beautiful, it is worthy to engage in and contemplate and even enjoy, but it will not satisfy the longing of your soul. And here Leland Ryken is quoted from, he called Ecclesiastes, quote, the most contemporary book in the Bible. Ecclesiastes is a satiric attack on acquisitiveness, on an inquisitive, hedonistic, and materialistic society. It exposes the mad quest to find satisfaction in knowledge, wealth, pleasure, work, fame, and sex. Yes, that's it, right? This is the problem we have all around us, and this book speaks to it. That's our world, a world that is basically immersed in acquisitive, hedonistic, materialistic society, and exposes the mad quest to find satisfaction in knowledge, wealth, pleasure, work, fame, and sex. That's the world, and this offers a critique. It tells us that this world, although good, will not ultimately satisfy us. And that's an important message for this world, because people have all those things. They're pursuing all those things. They're living their lives under the sun, but something is missing. And there's a growing sense of futility, a growing sense of meaninglessness to life, and this book speaks into that. Very relevant contemporary book. It's valuable. All right, point number 3, it's wisdom literature. It's wisdom literature. We're once again in that genre of the Bible known as wisdom literature. What is wisdom literature? Well, let's turn to a great scholar, Elizabeth Ackmeyer, and this is what she wrote about wisdom. She writes, wisdom is the result of practical experience and the careful observation of both natural and human worlds. Out of all the chaos of experience, wisdom finds customary orders in the world, ways in which human beings and natural phenomena ordinarily behave. Its aim, then, is to teach men and women these orders so that they may know how to act in harmony with the world around them. That's exactly right. Wisdom is really practical stuff, and it's built on the observation of both the natural world and human behavior. And it's trying to help us to live well within the structure of this world under the sun. Wisdom is a guide for us, and boy, do we need wisdom. Right? We live in an information society. We live in a time of great knowledge. You can, ask Google, ask Alexa. Okay, somebody's just went off in their house, but you can do all that kind of stuff, right? You got it at your fingertips. You can have a tremendous amount of information. But what we are lacking as a culture, as a people, and even in the church as Christians is wisdom, how to live well under the sun. This book helps us to do that. So that's another reason, really, it's valuable. Okay, point number 4, author. Who wrote the book? Well, we don't know. Just like Lamentations, this book is basically anonymous. And so the traditional view that it was Solomon, but there are many reasons to question that, and it has been questioned, and most people don't maintain that. All we know about the author is the identified author is Koheleth, and what means teacher, and that's how the author identifies, refers to himself. There is reason to believe it is a person of the male gender. We might call him the wise guy, right? So he's kind of like in this persona of a Solomonic type of person, providing wisdom to the people of Israel. But we don't know exactly who the author is by personal name. By the way, so the book, if Solomon wrote the book, one would presume that he would have identified himself as he does elsewhere in Scripture. Okay, so next one is setting. The setting. This is the glory days. Israel is doing well. This book is written into a prosperous time in Israel's life. They're doing well. They're making the coin. They're feeling good. They're prospering as a people. And this is when this book kind of speaks into a moment of prosperity for the people of Israel. Okay, recipients. It's not the ordinary Joe or Jane Israelite, okay? This is really written to the elites. The elites, kind of the aristocracy of the time. It's written what you might call like a royal court setting. those who occupy areas of privilege, highly educated, whatever. These are the elites, and they're consumed with the pursuit of dollars, with the pursuit of money and wealth. Now, of course, there's no corollary to our modern world, right? I mean, yeah, okay. So this is an important book. It's written to these recipients, and that's also something that is worth us considering in this age. And then finally, the message. The message. What is the book of Ecclesiastes about? What is its overarching message? Well, it's a call to reject secularism. Now, what I mean by that is not to reject the world. Remember, the world matters. It's good. But to reject a view of the world, kind of in the Charles Taylor kind of sense of things, that this is all there is. That this is all what life is about, what is the things we can see, taste, touch, the things, this tangible, natural world, as if there's an umbrella over the world. There's nothing transcendent. It is all about what is here. That's the type of secularism the book calls us to reject. A world without any sense of God's involvement, of any sense of a transcendent importance or presence of God, and of living this world and living this life without God. It's a call to reject that, and it won't satisfy you, and it won't bring meaning to your life if all you have is this world. And so obviously the opposite and corresponding message is to embrace God. So reject a kind of strict secularism that denies the existence and importance of God, and embrace this God. Fear God and keep His commandments is really one of the key verses of this book, one of the key conclusions of this book, and it's throughout it. It's a call to understand that there's more than just what we experience under the sun, and to properly engage in this world and to live for Christ in this world. You must embrace the goodness of this world, but always recognizing that there's more to life than that which is under the sun, and to fear God and to keep His commandments, to live well in this world. This is the wisdom it's trying to give us, to keep those two things together. So reject secularism, embrace God. Okay, so that's basically it. There's a little bit of a preview for what we'll be dealing with. This is a great book. The topics that are covered are so relevant, even though obviously written millennia ago. It is right there on the front pages of our newspaper today, as you will see. Now, here's a little quiz for you. This is kind of a little, see if you can figure this out. Go ahead and try to identify one quotation of the book of Ecclesiastes in the New Testament, if you can find where that is. And if you can, I'll give you, well, I won't make any promises. Try to find that. Should I give it away? Nah, I won't do that. But try to find that in the New Testament, and guess what? You won't find it, because there's no quotation in the New Testament from the book of Ecclesiastes. It's not quoted at all in the New Testament. Now, having said that, having given that away, spoiler, there is one allusion to the book of Ecclesiastes in the New Testament. And if you listen to my sermon on September 13th, when I begin this series, you will hear that allusion made. So maybe you can pick up on that. Maybe you already know it. There is one allusion to the book of Ecclesiastes in the New Testament. See if you can figure it out. Okay, that's the introduction to Ecclesiastes. I hope you'll stay tuned as I preach through the series. I'll try to release those sermon snacks, and hopefully that'll provide some kind of filler background information for the sermons, for those who want to dig a little deeper, for those who want to know how the cake is made. Thanks for listening. God bless.